welcome to our program Where God Weeps, a program where we talk about the situation of the Catholic Church around the world. Nigeria is Africa's most populated country. Out of the 160 million Nigerians, 20 million are Catholics, the largest Catholic population in the continent. This country is the largest African economy and is the leading oil producer. In recent years, the country has been overshadowed by violence perpetrated by extremist groups. The political scenario faces constant challenges due to the extreme inequality of wealth distribution. To know more about the work that the Church is doing in this country, it is my honor to welcome His Excellency Archbishop Ignatius Kaigama from the Archdiocese of Jos in central Nigeria. Your Excellency, welcome once again to our program.
Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, we had the opportunity of having you here a few years ago, and you presented us the reality of your country back then facing this very important challenge with the group of Boko Haram and some other situations. But now, if you allow me, I would like to take the message that you addressed to the recently elected president as a guideline for our conversation, because I think that you touch very important topics in this message. So my first question to you is, can you paint for us what was the political scenario for these important elections in Nigeria, and what was the result of it?
Well, we faced an election, and many were optimistic about it, many were so pessimistic. Actually, the pessimists had even gone on to predict the disintegration of Nigeria after these elections. But typical of the Nigerians, we proved the pessimists wrong. The elections were done peacefully, and for the first time in the history of the country that an incumbent president was defeated. And midway through the counting of the votes, he rang the candidate that has won and said, I accept defeat, and you are the president. That was, kind of new, Then the new administration has been sworn in and into action. Many people are eager to see the good that they have to do. Many people have been crying for change, and the motto of their campaign was change. And people say, look, we want change because things have just not gone well. Governance has been problematic. Corruption has made life miserable for the Nigerians. The youth are in disarray because they just are not being looked after the right way. And we need a change. And this change has come in the person of President Muhammadu Buhari. He's just 1 year in office barely, and now we're optimistic that he will bring something new on the table, and we want to give him a chance. We are very optimistic that with his own declared intention and determination to fight corruption and to fight insurgency, terrorism, I believe he will make a tremendous impact.
Your Excellency, in your message, you reminded to Mr. Buhari, and I quote, your commitment towards ensuring that Nigeria remains a multi-religious state where every individual is free to practice his or her religion of choice. Why did you choose these particular words? Is there a particular threat about religious freedom in Nigeria nowadays?
Before the elections, news were all over the place that this presidential candidate was a religious bigot, that he was likely to walk towards the Islamization of Nigeria. You know, the Catholic bishops hosted him once, shortly before the elections. And we asked him the question, are you a religious bigot? Do you intend to convert?
Right up.
Yeah, we asked him very clear question. He said, no, he isn't. And that it would be foolish for anybody to think that one religion will dominate over the other in Nigeria. That it will be a waste of time. That we should allow people to practice their religion as they wish. He told us that in that meeting. So we wanted to reaffirm that and remind him that we should have religious equality in the country, and no religion should dominate over the other or have undue advantages over the other. So we had to bring up that to remind him that we are still aware of his declaration and we intend to hold him onto it. And what we want is religious freedom for everybody. People free to associate and to practice their religion without molestation, without discrimination, without the hostility that characterizes what we have witnessed in the past. We just want freedom of religion.
Another important message that you addressed to the president, another quote, we commend, you're addressing to him, and you said, we commend your efforts in the fight against Boko Haram and against corruption. We encourage that justice be done according to the rule of law, with no sacred cows to be spared. These two monsters, which you are tackling pretty well, have threatened to destabilize Nigeria and to cripple our national growth and development. It is very interesting that you put in the same paragraph the cancer of corruption and the violence, the terrorism of Boko Haram. Why do you refer to these two really dangers for the country?
Because they are
equal.
They are too dangerous, and they undermine the unity, the integrity, and the whole identity of the country. If you allow Boko Haram to succeed, you destabilize the country. Nigeria is no longer Nigeria, the great country that it should be. Then corruption has been there longer than Boko Haram, and it does the same kind of damage. It eats gradually and deeply into the system, truncates every plan for progress and development, destabilizes governance and so on, and creates hardships and deprivation that generates violence, conflicts, and so on. So we believe with Buhari coming on board and saying, I'm going to tackle this, he is tackling some very fundamental issues that could cripple and, if care is not taken, annihilate Nigeria. So that is why we feel they are equally dangerous. They are monsters, and they have to be got rid of.
So you think that the president is in the right track to defeat Boko Haram?
Absolutely. That has been our prayer. We have been praying a long time for Nigeria in distress. The Catholic Bishops' Conference composed a prayer called A Prayer for Nigeria in Distress. We composed another one, Prayer Against Bribery and Corruption. We have been praying that for years and years. And I believe God listens to our prayer. Corruption is being tackled. Boko Haram is being defeated. So our prayers have been answered, and we will
very
want
encouraging news.
Yes, we want to see more of that, and that's why we paid a visit to Mr. President to tell him we are solidly behind him. We are not disturbed about people who talk of religious differences. The president is a Muslim; he may have a Muslim agenda. What we want is a good Nigerian leader who can provide good leadership, good governance, and create a situation where Nigerians are happy and can live well. The children, the youth, the men and the women, that there is a provision of social amenities, structures that can create a conducive, peaceful coexistence. This is what we want from a Nigerian president, whether Muslim or Christian. And we want to reassure Mr. President that we are together as long as he is working for the common good, without discrimination, without any favoritism, but just for the common good of all Nigerians.
Your Excellency, talking about Boko Haram, it comes to mind immediately the kidnapped girls of Chibok in 2014. What are the latest news about them? I mean, we've read that some of them have escaped, that are safe now, but in general, what is the current situation of these girls?
Such a sad, tragic occurrence that makes the heart of every Nigerian bleed, because these over 200 girls, schoolgirls, innocent schoolgirls, kidnapped and taken away into the bush, away from their parents and family, is very horrific violence done to them. We have again been praying and hoping that something good will happen. The government, I believe, has also been doing her part to see that these girls are released. But very little progress has been made until just last week, when one of the girls was alleged to have been rescued, along with her terrorist husband, the fellow who was supposed to have married her. She has a baby. They were rescued and brought back to her family, and eventually the president also received the girl and her baby. And
oh, she had an interview with the president.
yeah, she had some, audience, and you could see the president is so anxious to have these girls back, no matter how traumatized they have been, no matter how violated they have been. He wants to have them back as human beings, and the Nigerian society will do everything possible to reintegrate them and to reassure them that even after all this horrific experience, terrible violence committed against them, there is still hope for them and life continues. So we are quite optimistic now, better than before, that by God's grace, more and more of these girls will be recovered and brought back to their families.
In some of the secular media recently, they were making some comments that the welcoming of these girls hasn't been that warmth, let's say. That there is some kind of suspicion, even resentment that, when they come back pregnant, having the baby of these terrorists, that, their villages, even their own families haven't been that welcoming. Is that really the case, Your Excellency, or this is just some exaggerated news?
Yeah, I believe it's natural, stigmatization is an issue, and in the villages especially, where education is also limited, they are likely to react in that manner. Oh, these are no longer safe girls. These are people who have been indoctrinated negatively. These are people who have been taught very violent and terrorist behavior. So there is that tendency to distance themselves. But when you meditate seriously on the plight of these girls, it wasn't their fault. People who reason well will not discriminate against them, will actually welcome them back gloriously, because they were lost and they have been found. And they have suffered tremendously, and they should be welcomed back as heroines. They are, because having survived the terrible evil of these terrorists, I think they should be welcomed very, very fantastically. And the president of our country demonstrated that. The way he received a baby born out of this, evil. He received the baby with such tender, loving care. You could see that in the body language of Mr. President. And then received a girl. And even the so-called husband was not thrown away. So they have a place. And I think when human beings are lost and they are found, we should rejoice.
Another request that you did to Mr. President in your message as president of the Conference of Bishops, you asked him that the church wants to be involved in all the measures that the government would take in regards to the internal displaced people, what we used to call refugees, but they're not refugees because they're still in their own country. But What do you expect? How do you want the church to participate in this
The
process?
Catholic Church has been playing hosts to these people, irrespective of their ethnic affiliation, religious affiliation. We have received them with open arms.
What do you mean being hosts?
Namely, people who have lost their homes, lost everything, and just on the streets. They run to the church because they know we are there. The Catholic Church is known to be so welcoming of these people. In Maiduguri, the bishop there, while everybody was running away, he remained and welcomed these people. In Yola, the Catholic bishop there also had fantastic reception for these people, gave them clothing, feeding, provided security for them, and so on. Thousands and thousands were in that cathedral premises. So the church is known to be doing that. Then we have others who escaped to Cameroon, Chad, and all other places. We, as the Catholic Bishops' Conference, sent a delegation of 4 or 5 bishops to go and see them, greet them, just be with them and show them that we love them, that no matter what has happened to them. We collected some bit of money and took it to them, bought things that were helpful to them. Right now, there are some priests from Maiduguri Diocese who are living in Cameroon with the refugees. That is a sign of our pastoral solidarity and even social solidarity. So we have done quite well, and we know the situation pretty well. We have received internally displaced people in our dioceses, whether it's Kaduna, Abuja, Jos, wherever. They are all over the place, and we have been quite helpful to them. So we are telling the federal government, you are trying to set up a system, you are trying to raise funds to reconstruct, to rebuild, to resettle these people back on their land. We are saying this should not be done without us, because we have been there with them from the beginning. We have offered support, offered love and care to them. So if they have any plans, we are not to be excluded as a Catholic Church, because we have been with them, we have experienced what they have experienced, we have been witnesses to the atrocities that they have committed, and we have never left them. The Church has been there and therefore should be involved in the government distribution of resources or whatever is available for use for the displaced people.
Your Excellency, another paragraph that caught my attention in your message was when you addressed this problem or this challenge about construction of places of worship. Is there a problem for the Catholic Church to build churches, to have pastoral centers? What kind of complications?
What we mean there is, in some of our institutions, in the far north especially, you find that federal institutions or government institutions that should provide a level ground for all citizens. You notice some discriminatory practices. For instance, in some big universities in the far north, you find that the far north, which is predominantly Muslim, you find out that the Muslim communities will have their mosques within the premises, but the Christian community would have no place of worship. The Catholics would have to assemble in the dining hall or in a classroom to pray on Sunday. They have no permanent place to pray. And then chaplains are not employed for them to take care of their spiritual and pastoral needs, while others enjoy these facilities. So we are saying these are Nigerians, and they also need moral and spiritual growth. Why should you ignore them and deny them these services? We are asking that the president should prevail on the governors of this state or the authorities who run these institutions to provide equal opportunities. For God's sake, if Christians become better Christians, Muslims become better Muslims, it assists the society and the institution progresses. But when there is glaring discrimination and you deny the Christians the right to have their chaplains, to direct them spiritually, the right to have their churches built on the university premises, something is wrong. Similarly, we have some states that refuse to give certificates of occupancy to Christians. They wouldn't even allow Christians to buy land for church building and so on. And where you manage to buy some land, you will it's not easy to get a certificate of occupancy. So we are saying that in the spirit of the freedom of religion, everyone should be able to get a place to worship, be free to associate, and should be assisted even by government so that they become better Christians or Muslims. This is what we are saying, equal opportunities for everyone. After all, in Jos, in the southern part, in the eastern part, Muslims are given their rights. They have mosques, they have their institutions that are allowed to function without discrimination. Why should it be the opposite in these far northern states of Nigeria?
And I guess these are the same arguments in regards to also these differences with religious educational institutions. Mm-hmm. That is another topic that you mentioned in your
For instance,
what is the problem there, Your Excellency? What is the situation?
That you have such big institutions and you don't allow some form of religious education. You maybe allow the Muslims, for instance, because that area is predominantly Muslim. But what happens with the Christians? When you don't educate them religiously, when you don't build them up morally and spiritually, you are creating monsters for the society. What we are saying is that give them equal opportunities, academically, morally, spiritually. This is holistic education. This is what it means. But when you exclude that out of narrow, petty, religious prejudice, this is not helpful at all. It is destructive, actually, because you are preparing people without a faith, without foundation of morals, and so on. And this could be dangerous for the society. We are saying allow everybody to be formed according to their religious identity and faith, and we will be producing better citizens for the country, for the society.
Your Excellency, I would like to finish our conversation in a very positive note, and it's vocations. Vocations in Nigeria, it's something very notorious in terms of the numbers of seminarians that you have. And in your diocese, you have, I think in the minor seminary, you have almost 300
more than 300
students, yes. Mm-hmm. And in the major seminary around 60 something.
Yeah.
So these are very good numbers. Mm-hmm. What is the reality of vocations in Nigeria? How much or how high is the perseverance of these students?
Yeah, we thank God for the gift of vocations, and sometimes actually we have so many students applying to join the seminary for priestly training, but we have a very rigorous screening procedure to make sure we end up with those who genuinely have a vocation. So you find out that maybe out of 50, 60 applying in the Archdiocese of Jos, I will only take 12 or 15 after a very rigorous process, academic, screening, moral, spiritual, family background and all that. So we take it very, very seriously. We are gifted with the vocations, and even with our churches are full. We thank God for that. For now, we have the people. There's a huge crowd, huge congregation every Sunday. We are grateful to God, and we want to do everything possible to keep them. And it's the same story in all parishes and dioceses in Nigeria. And as for vocations, we are blessed, and we want to reciprocate the gesture done to us by Europe. When from nowhere the Irish, the Italians, the Germans, the British went to evangelize us. Now we are fully evangelized, and we have become a local church, a fully local church. And we feel we have something to give. And that is why I'm here in Königstein to express solidarity with the aid to the church in need, and to express profound appreciation for all that they have done to support our seminarians, support our catechists, to support our pastoral ministry, even in very difficult times when the going was very rough and tough. They have been there for us. And we understand that benefactors from all over the world are contributing and sacrificing resources to help us. So we are deeply very grateful. And with this help, vocations will only continue to grow. We will have more priests and religious, even lay missionaries. And the West should not be afraid to ask us for help. We are willing to assist. As a bishop in the Nigerian church, I'll be willing to release 2-3 priests to a diocese that asks me for assistance, maybe for a 5-year period. Go and serve. Just like these people came from Ireland, from Britain, they had no language, they had no relations, they died in their youth serving us. We are ready to offer the same kind of assistance. And we pray that this will be possible, and we will continue to grow in vocations. You will continue to support, and by God's grace, we also promise you our wholehearted support.
That's how we are one Catholic Church.
Yes.
Your Excellency, thank you so much for being with us, and I hope that you come visit us sometime soon again.
Thank you for the very wonderful welcome, very cordial and warm welcome by all in the Aid to the Church in Need office there in Königstein, and wherever I have been. I have been to Poland, Chile, Brazil, at the invitation of Aid to the Church in Need, and they have been wonderful. The benefactors have been wonderful. Keep up the good work that the Lord has started in you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us in another program of Where God Weeps. If you want to know more about the situation of the Church, the work of the Church in Nigeria, we encourage you to contact the information at the end of this program. Thank you, and God bless.